YouTube, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. We are here for Sunday's episode at the Bettor's Edge, and we are continuing in March Madness in round two. What a game we saw last night. Before we get into today's card, Vanderbilt, Nebraska. I don't recall a game this early in the tournament with that type of environment, that type of home court advantage that the University of Nebraska had last night. That was one of the most intense atmospheres I've seen in any college hoops game in a long time. Give credit to Vanderbilt. They fought through that atmosphere. They gave it 110% of their effort. They figured out a way to knock down some shots in that environment, find a way late in the game to get a 5-point lead. But at the end of the day, this Nebraska team was able to pound the paint, use motion on offense to create mismatches on the interior and get easy buckets. And ultimately, the home court advantage won out. Yes, Vanderbilt almost hit a miracle shot to win the game, and that kid on Vanderbilt put on a hell of a performance. But you got to give credit to Hoiberg and this Nebraska staff and players to eke out that type of victory. I thought Vanderbilt was head and shoulders the superior team. Tip of the cap to Nebraska and their fans for finding a way to advance to the Sweet 16 for the first time in program history. Moving on to today, guys. I'm going to get started with my best bet on the card. It's going to be the best bet of this entire weekend. It's my college basketball NCAA tournament game of the year. We have Kentucky and we have Iowa State. Right now, this line is sitting at Iowa State minus 5.5 points. The key here, guys, is Jefferson. He tweaked his ankle, was on crutches very early in that game. I think within the first 3 or 4 minutes, he ended up coming out of the game. We saw him on crutches later on. I'm not anticipating Jefferson being able to play today. I've been on this show for the better part of the last 2 months talking about how much I love this Iowa State team, and that hasn't really changed. However, when you take Jefferson out of the equation, he's their best player. We know how this Iowa State team likes to play. They like to get up and down the court, they like to play fast, and they like to chuck threes. When you remove Jefferson from the equation, you have to imagine not only are they losing their best player, their best scorer, but they're losing the heartbeat of the offense. What do I mean by that? They're losing the player that creates for other players. In my opinion, you're going to see this team struggle to knock down threes at the rate that they're accustomed to hitting them at, because they're probably not going to get as good of looks without Jefferson on the court. I know what we saw from Kentucky in that first game wasn't impressive. Owe hit a miracle shot to send the game to overtime, and they end up covering in round one. It wasn't impressive from Pope. It wasn't impressive from this Wildcats team, but they found a way to move on in advance. The worst thing you can do in March Madness is handicap games based on what you saw in round one moving into round two. We can't do that. What happened the other day has no correlation with what's going to happen today. With that said, taking Jefferson off of Iowa State, Kentucky playing with house money, I just think 5.5 points is way too many points in this type of spot. It's my March Madness game of the year. It's Kentucky plus 5.5 points. It's a 25-star play. Give me Kentucky Wildcats potentially to even pull the outright upset, but I'm going to take the points anyways. Second bet and last bet on the card for today that I like, I'm going to continue fading the St. John's Red Storm. We have St. John's, we have Kansas. Right now, St. John's is minus 3.5. I've been a loser on fading this team the last 2 times out. I'm going to try a third time, and hopefully the third time's the charm. At the end of the day, this St. John's team just hasn't faced an elite guard probably all season. It's been a long, long time that you would have to go back, maybe even out of conference play, but before we've seen the St. John's team face an offensive guard that they're going to play today in Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson is an offensive scoring machine. He's probably no longer the favorite to go first overall, but that's not based on talent. That's not based on production. That's based on other factors that are now coming into the equation. But at the end of the day, these are two elite coaches, two elite defenses, and I just think 3.5 points is too many points. It's not as much or as big of a play or as big of an edge in this game as there is on Kentucky, but give me Kansas plus 3.5 points, Darren Peterson to put up enough buckets and strain the St. John Red Storm's defense enough for Kansas to either cover the number or potentially pull off the upset outright. As always, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Up until this point, March Madness has been a total snooze fest. I'm expecting today to be the best day in this tournament so far.